Welcome, peace scholars. When people speak out for peace, are any of them ever threatened by the war machine? That was another question I asked when I was working on this new book, which is called Zero, an Every Person's Field Guide to Weaponless World. And I'm going to be reading that book soon, and I'm going to have the print copy in my hand, but you can get it for free at aviskalfspeak.com/zero. And I made this book with Gemini, who I call G, and this is part two of me going through my interaction of how this book came about. And we made it in about 10 days. It's a complete disarmament plan based on some plans that already exist. Um, a plan Clark and Sohn in 1958, who knew, wrote a 100% disarmament plan. So check out part one, which I just recorded, and we're going to continue on. So the next question that I asked G was, pull out all the smarty pants in your above work, all the authors, scholars, various diplomats. If possible, I always have typos in my prompts too, but I'll just read what I wrote. I can see I have some typos. If possible, write name, what document / plan / initiative they worked on, mini bio, date of birth / death. Lastly, what came of them? Were any celebrated? Were any threatened by the war machine? G. Here's the breakdown of the smarty pants, and I will do a little sidebar. Smarty pants is a term we use in the book Zero for, we think of that term, and it's even written in the book, that can be kind of a derogatory term, like, oh, he's a smarty pants. We need more smarty pants, people. If you're a smarty pants, come forward to solve these problems that we're in. Many, many problems. The biggest one that I would say is that we can't stop killing each other or killing everything. Okay, back to what Gemini, who I call G, said. Here's the breakdown of the smarty pants, the architects, diplomats, and scholars who drafted the blueprints for global disarmament. 1. The legal architect, Grenville Clark. Document plan, World Peace through World Law, 1958. Go get the book. I saw a used copy online. And the Selective Service Act, 1940. Bio, 1888 to 1967. A high-powered Wall Street lawyer and confidential counsel to several U.S. presidents. Paradoxically, he was a master of both war and peace. He wrote the law that created the U.S. military draft for World War II, but spent the rest of his life trying to abolish war itself. Oh, that makes me emotional there, thinking of the document that drafted people into the war. What came of him? He was a Nobel Peace Prize nominee. While widely respected, he was often seen by the war machine as a brilliant but dangerous idealist because he wanted to displace national sovereignty with a world government. He died just as the 1960s disarmament movement began to fade into the Cold War. 2. The brain. I'm saying Lewis, but I don't know if it's Louis, but let's go with Lewis. Lewis B. Sohn. Document / plan, co-author of World Peace through World Law, consultant to the UN Charter drafting 1945. Bio 1914 to 2006, a Polish-born legal scholar who escaped to the U.S. just 2 weeks before the Nazi invasion in 1939. He became a Harvard law professor and was known as the brain who walks like a man due to his encyclopedic knowledge of international law. Side note, this is the person that made the 100% peace plan with his partner, Clark. And so these were some smarty pants indeed. What came of him? He was celebrated as the father of international environmental law and a pioneer of human rights law. Unlike Clark, he worked within the system for decades, helping the UN build the very structures, like the law of the sea, that still function today. Number 3, the establishment lobbyist John J. McCloy, document/plan. The McCloy-Zorin Accords, 1961, founder of the Arms Control and Disarmament Agency, the ACDA, bio 1895 to 1989. Known as the chairman of the American establishment, he was a banker, a lawyer, and a high ranking official who oversaw the occupation of Germany after World War II. What came of him? McCloy was the ultimate insider. He wasn't threatened by the war machine, he was the machine, which is why it was so significant when he lobbied for disarmament. He used his connections with World War II generals like Eisenhower to convince Congress that disarmament was a security issue, not just a peace issue. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1963. Number 4, the rival Valerian Zorin, document/plan. The McCloy-Zorin Accords, 1961. Soviet Draft Treaty on General and Complete Disarmament, 1962. Bio, 1902 to 1986. A top-tier Soviet diplomat and deputy foreign minister. He is most famous in the West for his confrontation with Adlai Stevenson during the Cuban Missile Crisis, where he stubbornly denied the existence of missiles in Cuba. What came of him? In the USSR, he was highly decorated with 3 orders of Lenin. However, his work on disarmament was often overshadowed by the realpolitik of the Cold War. He remained a loyal Communist Party member until his death, representing the Soviets' hardline approach to peace on their terms. Taking a sip of coffee, which you will see on the video but won't know on the audio. Number 5, the modern synthesizer. We're continuing on with our smarty pants. António Guterres, document/plan, securing our common future, an agenda for disarmament, 2018. Bio, 1949 to present. The current Secretary General of the United Nations and former Prime Minister of Portugal. What came of him? He is the primary figure keeping the general and complete disarmament flame alive in the 21st century. While not threatened in a physical sense, his initiatives often face stiff resistance or simple silence from major world powers who are currently rearming rather than disarming. Number 6, the public educator. Melissa Gillis, document/plan, disarmament, a basic guide, multiple editions. Bio, a technical writer and researcher for the UN Office for Disarmament Affairs, UNODA. What came of her? She represents the layman's side of the work. Her job is to take the complex legal jargon of the smarty pants listed above and turn it into something the average citizen can understand and support. I did not retrieve that, so I am going to do that. That's called Disarmament, a Basic Guide, people. Let's look it up. So G goes on to finish answering my question, were they threatened by the war machine? Gemini likes to use a lot of words in quotes. You have to rein it in on that. So war machine is in quotes. I don't think it needs any quotes. I think we know what it is. I think it has a definition all on its own. It depends on how you defend the threat, the silent threat. Most of these figures, especially Clark and Sohn, weren't physically threatened. Instead, their ideas were starved out. The military-industrial complex didn't need to attack them. It simply ensured their plans were framed as unrealistic or unpatriotic in the mainstream media. The political threat. For someone like John J. McCloy, the threat was reputation. By pushing for disarmament, he risked losing the trust of the hardliners in the Pentagon. He bypassed this by trotting out the heroes, World War II generals, to prove that even the toughest soldiers wanted an end to the arms race. Side note, anyone seen on social media the Marine in the office where I assume they were all Marines, but maybe they were multiple branches of the service, were in a room getting briefed about the current war in Iran, who stood up and said, no, I'm not going to say the exact phrase he said, but he said, no, we're not going to war. He was ushered out. His hand was crushed within the door. He was treated like an animal. So anyone that speaks up for peace, for non-killing, is treated with I was going to say disdain, but that word doesn't even match how someone is treated. But that needs to stop. We need to have respect for people who are speaking out for peace. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about all the hardworking individuals that have spent their life working for peace. Would you, and so now we're ending with an offer because AI always ends with a question to do something. Would you like me to create a color-coded modern manual layout based on these specific individuals' contributions? I did not put anything color-coded in my little book Zero, so I call on you to make a color-coded manual. Okay, this was my next question for G. How familiar are you with Guterres's document, Securing Our Common Future, an Agenda for Disarmament in 2018? G responds, I'm very familiar with it. If the Clark-Sohn Plan is the legal manual and the McCloy-Zorin Accords are the statement of intent, then António Guterres's Securing Our Common Future, 2018, is the modern operating system for disarmament. In the book Zero, but you can search it up on the internet. Search that up. It's available to read. G is letting us know that this is the modern operating system for disarmament. It's there. These documents are there. The blueprints are there. He continues, I guess I see G as a male, but we know AI is an it. Let's call it a they. They continue on. It is particularly unique because it doesn't just look at tanks and nukes, it looks at algorithms, gender, and climate. Here is how you could color code Gutierrez's plan into your layman's manual organized by his 4 pillars. Pillar 1, disarmament to save humanity, the existential layer. Focus, nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. WMD. Looking for something to wipe my nose, so we're just going to have to deal with it. The logic. Gutierrez argues that we have returned to a Cold War level of risk. His manual steps here focus on resumption of dialogue between nuclear powers and strengthening the taboo against chemical and biological weapons. Key insight. He emphasizes that as long as these weapons exist, there's no safety, only a temporary reprieve. His pillar number 2, disarmament that saves lives, the humanitarian layer. Focus, conventional weapons, grenades, rifles, landmines, and urban warfare. The logic, this is the most user-friendly part of his plan. He focuses on the urbanization of conflict, the fact that modern wars are fought in streets, not battlefields. Key insight, he links disarmament directly to sustainable development. His manual points out that every dollar spent on a missile is a dollar stolen from a hospital or school, referencing the opportunity cost of war. This is part of this little summary plan in the little book Zero that we created. Has these components of Guterres's plan. Pillar 3, disarmament for future generations, the tech layer. Focus, autonomous weapons, killer robots, AI, and cyber warfare. The logic, this is where the AI revival you mentioned is most critical. Guterres is terrified of weaponized AI that can make decisions to kill without human intervention. Key insight, his manual demands that humans must remain in control of the use of force. He wants to graft old ethics onto new technology before the tech outpaces our ability to regulate it. I write aspirational books where we envision a future of peace. That is the future. This morning I was thinking of the phrase, we are a peaceful people. We are a people of peace. But I also read the New York Times last night and the article about the young man in the Hawaiian shirt making AI weapons. Enough said. Pillar 4, strengthening partnerships, the community layer. Focus, bringing in women, youth, and the private sector. The logic, Guterres admits the smarty pants in the UN cannot do this alone. Key insight. He specifically calls for the equal participation of women in disarmament talks, noting that peace treaties negotiated by inclusive groups are significantly more likely to last. And in a recent video, I brought up Dr. Rand Wilson that says women should be leading everything. How to use this for your revived plan, G is telling me. If you were using AI to build a layman's version of this today, Guterres provides the data tags. You could take his 111 action points, the specific to-do list attached to the 2018 document, go read it, and have an AI categorize them by 1, cost benefit, how much money is saved by this specific action, 2, tech risk, how does this stop a killer robot, 3, local impact, how does this make a specific city like Geneva or New York safer? Guterres' 2018 agenda is essentially a plea for a return to the 1963 mindset, updated for a world that has internet access and autonomous drones. We call in our Peace Words world, in the Pieces Here podcast world, in this world, that 1963 was the start of the Great Disarmament. And knowing what we know about these documents, the writings for it started before, and we are in the Great Disarmament. That is where we are, and this war that's happening is, I think, shining a light on all of these things that need to happen. Now G's offering something else. Would you like me to pull some of those 111 specific action points so you can see what a to-do list for global peace actually looks like? That's a nice suggestion. But I will tell you what I asked next, which we are going to put into part 3. My next question, which we won't listen to the answer for now, was I asked how much of the historical plans did he use to structure his plan? Is it a light version? And did he leave some important things out to get more agreement? Or is it inclusive and as rich and diligent as the previous plans? So I just wondered, that's the beauty of AI. I don't have to go read every word of Guterres's plan. What's in that plan? So that's what I asked next. And we're on page 3 of 60 pages. I don't believe I'm going to go through everything that I went through to make this little book, but this was a partnership between G and me to revive these existing plans, which are the 1958 Clark-Sohn plan, Guterres's UN work, and also what AI can do now to shore up what didn't work back then, which nobody knew how we were going to verify the nuclear arms on either side. Everyone was suspicious of everything else. Now, is AI perfect? Is AI ready? That's not a question I can answer, but we're certainly in a different place in what we can do for peace and disarmament to get to zero weapons. This book also includes controversy warning. We can't have a world where we're going to zero military grade weapons in the Army and have our populations walking around with military grade assault rifles. So this little book, Zero, also includes a staircase down of those weapons as well. And not zero weapons, doesn't say getting rid of hunting rifles and that kind of thing. But it is a pare down of military grade weapons privately held by citizens. And I went a little longer. I just hope that you'll pick up the book. I hope you'll write your own, this little book, where you can get it anywhere for 99 cents, but on my website it's free, aviskolfspeck.com/0. It's open source. You can reprint it under your own label. You can take it and make your own. It's something I did with AI. These has some of my own writing in there, but it's primarily summarizing these other people's work. And peace is possible. We are a peaceful people. We are a people of peace. Peace and love.